Hello and welcome to Lansing Pulse. I'm Ken Miller, joined as always by City Administrator Tim Vandall. Tim, we've had a couple of situations recently in the city where infrastructure improvements have caused some, I guess we'll call it consternation. And I'm specifically referring to the utility relocation that's going on more or less right now at K7 in Eisenhower. We're recording this on September 20th. There was a utility pole being accidentally knocked over during mill and overlay work. That was in a different part of the city, not at K7 in Eisenhower. But those are some examples. What do residents need to know about these types of events?
You know, anytime we know about something like that mill and overlay snafu in advance, we try to get the word out to people and say, hey, there's going to be work taking place in your neighborhood. Have a few extra minutes laid out for your trip to work. If you can, especially with that mill and overlay work. It's been challenging this summer because they've been here and then they've had to leave, and then they've been here and had to leave. And I think that contractor is facing the same thing everybody else is with labor shortages. And there was just that unfortunate incident when they were milling the road and they knocked over an Evergy line. So that was unexpected, and that was frustrating, especially for people who lived in that neighborhood. But yeah, that's something that hopefully we can move past. Regarding the K7 Eisenhower work, we've been trying to get the word out to people for a couple of months about that. And what's going on there is Kansas Gas Service is moving a gas line that's underneath the road. That line needs to be moved because we're doing that road project to improve the traffic flow for Quick Trip and Tractor Supply and the car wash. And so one of the things that's been challenging, there was some rainfall that set that contractor back a little bit, but also that contractor is having labor shortages too. So we have been trying to get the word out on that intersection a few weeks in advance, telling people, hey, use DeSoto Road, use K5, use a detour if you can, because we know that's a busy intersection, and those utility delays, they can really set people back. So we've been trying to encourage people to do that. We've put it on the city's Facebook page, put it on the city's website. We put it in the Lansing Connection, I believe. It's just challenging trying to reach every person in Lansing in those unique ways that they get their news. But the other thing that I would say too is, as frustrating as this has been, waiting for Kansas Gas Service to move their line, you got to remember that this still isn't full construction of the project yet. Full construction will begin next year, and if we think it's bad now, it's going to be even more delays next year. So I would really encourage people, use DeSoto Road if you can, use K5 if you can. We are going to try to have an electric sign out there next year, just to remind people of the intersection delays. But really, if you can, use those detours. That'll help you out a lot. And I can't remember if I was talking to our Public Works Director, Mike Spickelmeyer, or you, but when you think about it, especially now that DeSoto Road has been improved, that's 40 miles an hour all the way down from Eisenhower all the way to 4H, no stop signs, there's sidewalks there and everything. So using DeSoto Road is almost just as fast as using K7 because there's stoplights on K7. So really, if you can, use DeSoto Road, use K5, because that intersection, it is going to be congested for a while.
I think a good rule of thumb, and this is true not only in the K7 and Eisenhower intersection work scenario, but in any, if you're not wanting to patronize a business that's at that intersection, there's really no reason to go through that intersection knowing that it's going to be, for more or less maintenance-wise, it's going to be screwed up for a while.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And the other thing that I want to say too, and we talked about this at the Citizens Academy, we'll talk about that later, but we talked about this at Citizens Academy, is that when Quick Trip announced they were coming there, we heard from so many citizens saying traffic is going to be terrible there. And we knew that in advance, so we got this grant to improve the intersection. We're trying to improve the intersection as a result of the development that's going on there. So believe it or not, we were trying to plan ahead with this. It's just labor shortages and Kansas gas delays have been a little bit challenging for us. But again, when this is all done, that intersection, it's going to be safer, the traffic is going to flow better, it just takes time.
Short-term pain, long-term gain. All right, let's focus on Town Center for a moment. There's some activity over there It's public knowledge now that a new eye care facility is going to go in. It's going through the preliminary permits and approvals processes now. Talk about the increased activity over there. And we've talked about these things in the past, and there's always the caveat, you've got to be careful. Lansing elected officials have to be careful with what they can share publicly. It's a quiet game, it really is. But what can you tell us over there about the increased activity?
Yeah, well, you're right. So Family Eye Care, they're going through that whole permitting process right now, but we think that's going to close on September 30th. So they will take possession of the land on September 30th, and then hopefully we'll see them start moving dirt shortly thereafter. There's been another prospect that has reached out, and I think they're interested in another smaller 1 acre lot. It's a pretty promising prospect. We feel really good about it, but it's not the type of anchor or sales tax generator that I think some people would be wanting. But that's another prospect that would be paying property taxes, it would be jobs, and we feel good about it.
And you're one step closer to filling up town center.
One step closer to filling up town center.
Right.
So there is another prospect that is more of our long-term anchor type prospect, but you know, those types of things take time and they take patience. And there's things that we're working on with the prospect and that the prospect and their financiers are working on. So there's just things that take time, especially with those larger scale prospects, because you have to remember, anytime you build any type of building, it's you know, significantly expensive, especially with labor costs and material shortages. I mean, the people that we're talking to, it's going to be a multi-million-dollar investment. So there's a lot of things that they have to figure out before they can move forward. The other thing that I think, you know, the city council thinks about and that staff thinks about too, but maybe citizens don't think about, is some of the people that we talk to, you know, they might generate property tax, but not a lot of sales tax. Or they might generate sales tax, but maybe they don't have a lot of good paying jobs. Or maybe it's something that doesn't generate sales tax, but it generates a lot of traffic and a lot of interest in the area. So there's all of these things where we're trying to balance what we want. And, you know, it is challenging. And the thing that I think you understand and most of the city council understands is, it's not quite as easy as just calling up Panera or Chipotle and saying, hey, build in Lansing next fall. You know, it's not that simple, and it's sometimes challenging, I think, when people say that to me or say that to Mr. Schmitz or our mayor and just say, well, call Panera up. They'll come. And it's not quite that easy, and they can't build in every city that calls them, because then there would be, you know, 10,000 Paneras around the U.S. So it is a challenging deal. We're working on it, and but we do feel like we have some very good prospects, and we're really excited about them.
You and I usually about once a week take a ride around the city just to see about whether it's new development or just, you know, public works projects, whatever. We seem to always go past Harbor Freight, and we see the progress on that building. But it seems like growth is occurring. You just talked about town center. It seems like growth is occurring in several parts of Lansing. I know when I go to Dillon's just about every day for lunch, you know, I'm seeing that Eisenhower DeSoto, but it's a little east of there. You know, everything that's filling in around Ichiban and that retail area there. There's growth going on here.
There's a lot happening in the Lansing Leavenworth area, and I know Culver's is building in Leavenworth, and I know they're really excited about that too. You know, regarding Harbor Freight though, it's been really exciting to see that the last few weeks, because I want to say the building is closed in now, and hopefully we'll see the floor being poured and the parking lots being poured, and you can start to see the sign that'll say Harbor Freight. You're starting to see that go up a little bit too. So we are incredibly excited about that, and that's one of those things that it's going to generate a significant amount of sales tax for Lansing. And it's interesting too, I think we feel like growth in one area kind of snowballs almost, I think you could say, because I'm not sure the car wash goes in if Quick Trip doesn't build, and I'm not sure Harbor Freight goes in if Quick Trip and the car wash weren't there also. So it's kind of neat to see that north side of Lansing really grow and develop, and I think that's what we're anticipating seeing in town center too. I think we're going to have a couple of things get going there, and then I think things are really going to snowball. So yeah, there's a lot of really exciting things going on in Lansing right now. I think we wish there was more residential and housing available. I think that's something that everybody in the metro is struggling with. There's a housing shortage right now, and it seems like, a lot of times in Lansing, if a house goes on the market, it seems like it gets snapped up pretty quick.
Right.
So there is a housing shortage, and we're hoping to see some more houses in the next year and a half or so. But it is exciting to see so much growth, especially down that K7 corridor.
Right. All right, I know there's been some discussion, in fact, at the last city council meeting, I know you brought it up towards the end of the meeting, about public events, and this wouldn't be an interview if we didn't have some kind of COVID-19 related question. That's just the way it's been for the last year and a half. But our public events in some respects are still being affected by COVID-19. One of those events I know that you brought up last week was about the volunteer dinner. Of course, the volunteer dinner did not happen last year. What is the status of it this year? And then right after the volunteer dinner, we're looking at the Fall Festival, which is an outdoor event. Volunteer dinner, indoor event, Fall Festival, outdoor event. But let's start off with the volunteer dinner. What's the status?
We started planning that back in June, and things were looking good, and we talked to a caterer, and then it just seemed like after the 4th of July, things kind of started escalating again. So we felt like it might not be the best idea to have 100 people kind of packed into our community center. So similar to what we did last year, we are going to cancel the event for this year, but we do want to let our volunteers know how much we appreciate them. So we're going to get each volunteer a $50 gift card to a Lansing-based restaurant, and hopefully to let our people know how much we appreciate them. So that event, unfortunately, has been canceled for this year. But what you had said too, we've got the Fall Festival coming up on October 9th, and that's an outdoor event. We feel like we can kind of spread out a little bit more.
Right.
So we feel really good about that event. That event's taking place at Angel Falls Trail, and we're still planning it right now, and I think it's going to be a fabulous event. I'd really encourage people to go out there, bring the kids, check things out if you can. It should be a great time. Another event that is 99% sure going to take place is our Halloween event. I think it used to be called Spooky Center, but before, Spooky Center would be held in our gym
Indoors,
at the Activity
right?
Center.
Yep.
And so we're trying to modify that a little bit, so it's an outdoor event, almost kind of like a trunk or treat scavenger hunt type thing.
Right.
So that will take place on October 30th. We are finalizing the location, so I can't tell you 100% if it's at Bernard Park or if it's at City Park right now, but we are finalizing that location, and 99% sure it's going to be taking place. And so we feel really good about that. I want to say a lot of our youth soccer events just started last weekend, so overwhelmingly most of our events are still taking place. They might look a little bit different, but most of them are still taking place. We're trying to continue to give our residents a sense of normalcy, a sense of community, and I think most of our residents are doing a really good job, trying to be vigilant with all of this, and that's what the city's trying to do. We're trying to be safe and but also remain, have a sense of normalcy, I guess. So we feel really good about the Fall Festival, the Halloween event, and all of our Parks and Rec events going on right now.
Okay. Lastly, you and Mayor Tony McNeil had a chance to address the current Citizens Academy class. This is a couple of weeks ago. Impressions from that interaction. You've done that before. I think it was Mayor McNeil's first time, but you've done that before. Talk about what you get out of it.
It's always really enjoyable to me, and so often many of the people that I interact with, they're city employees, city volunteers, city council members. So a lot of times it's really good for me to hear from residents out there, their unfiltered opinion, kind of similar to those coffees with the city administrator.
Right.
I really value those, and it's really interesting to us, to me and Mayor McNeil, when we hear those opinions from citizens who say, hey, I've got this problem with internet service, I've got this problem with my road, I've got this problem with installing a fence, whatever. We really enjoy hearing stuff like that, because often we don't hear that because we're interacting with people who work with the city. So it's very beneficial to us to hear those types of things, and I know I think Mayor McNeil really enjoyed it as well, and I hope the people in the class enjoy it too. So there's only 7 people in the class this year. So it really is. It's a good give and take.
Right.
You know, and I think it's just a really beneficial program for people. And I know it just started,
Right.
but if anyone's interested, I would encourage you to check it out for maybe that 2022 time frame, because it is a fantastic event. You learn so much about
Right.
the inner workings of the city and
Right.
why certain things are the way they are.
Right.
So I would really encourage people to check that out the next time it's available.
And I would add to it, and you kind of built on this a little bit, but I would say staff learns almost as much as the citizens themselves. And I want to say we spent about 15, 20 minutes at the end of the last class just hearing from them and learning from them.
Yeah.
So it's a two-way street for sure.
Absolutely.
All right, I've been speaking with City Administrator Tim Vandall for Lansing Pulse. I'm Ken Miller.